The one difference with the Eagles defense, the year they won the Super Bowl, they've had a great pass rush for 5 straight years now, but the corners played great in 2017.
How's our financial plan coming?
Super! Chris, any advice?
With Western and Southern, preparing for your financial future can be easier than you think. Favorite receiver?
Huh?
To get started, visit westernsouthern.com.
It's never too early to look forward to the NFL draft and team needs. We're going to break down all 32 along with Mike Renner. I'm Steve Palazzolo. Mike, you wrote the whole article over at PFF.com breaking down team needs for all 32 teams. Just the top need, right? We're not going through the whole laundry list. So it's the top need. Let's start right at the top with the New England Patriots in the AFC East. We're going with the tight end. Who's going to replace Rob Gronkowski? We still don't know.
Yeah, they really haven't had anyone replace Rob Gronkowski this year. That tight end group been targeted 32 times on the year, only 23 catches for 297 yards. It's the 4th lowest yardage total of any tight end group in the NFL so far. And the thing is, Tom Brady loves to use the tight ends. They've averaged the 11th best EPA per play when they do target the tight end, so it's been good for the offense. They just don't have anyone really that they trust that they're throwing to. It could be a big need for them come next offseason.
Yeah, the Pats have really built around the tight ends in past years, never really replaced the great Rob Gronkowski. Let's go to the Buffalo Bills, and we're going with cornerback, even though it's a very good coverage unit. And I think the Bills do a great job of scheming it up and getting the most out of their talent. But as far as the actual talent on the field, they could upgrade.
That's the thing. You have Tre'Davious White on one side. He is an elite corner. He's allowed a 58.6 completion percentage, 58.6 passer rating. Very dichotomous there. But the other cornerbacks across from 67.2 completion percentage, 90.9 passer rating, has not been nearly as good. If you upgrade at that position, you have an elite defense then for a long, long time as long as those corners are there.
Let's move on to the Miami Dolphins. And Mike, you just wrote anywhere.
Yeah, literally anywhere they could upgrade this roster. But I think if you're going to the draft, you got to target value positions. Quarterback, tackle, edge rusher, cornerback, where you can get the most bang for your buck, that's where they should be looking.
Dolphins are in a nice spot to at least evaluate which players are going to be a part of the rebuild, but there are no players that are going to be irreplaceable.
Exactly.
But it starts with the quarterback, though, certainly in Miami. Let's round out the AFC East with the New York Jets, and we're just going to play a clip from the last 15 years. Their top need, edge defender.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Jordan Jenkins this year leads them with a 71.3 pass rushing grade. Very middling there for them. Over the past 5 seasons, no one's earned for a full season a pass rushing grade over 66.3. It's been a need forever, have not addressed it. I think this year they might actually end up doing so.
We mentioned on the PFF podcast this week, they used Jamal Adams as an edge rusher. He's a safety that never happens, and he was fantastic last week. So maybe they don't need it as much as you think. All right, let's go to the AFC West, starting with the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's cornerback. This has been a couple-year issue as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing is their 2 best ones, Bashaud Breeland, Kendall Fuller, are going to be free agents also. So not only do you not really have talent on the roster right now, it's only going to get worse. So they need to look in multiple. They need not one. They need probably 2 cornerbacks this offseason.
Every team needs corners, Mike. They all need them, but the Chiefs especially, as you mentioned, just because they don't have the talent and people are moving on. And then the Oakland Raiders were saying the same thing. It's cornerback. They've gotten glimpses from guys like Trayvon Mullen, but still a position that they need to upgrade going forward.
Yeah, and Darryl Worley going to be a free agent as well. They got rid of Gary Conley in the trade. He wasn't fitting in there, and I think they also need to move LaMarcus Joyner back to safety. He has been out of his depth at slot cornerback, so they need to, again, address slot there. LaMarcus Joyner, 41.0 coverage grade at the slot this season. Pretty ugly.
One of those guys, Joyner, that is versatile but much better at one of the roles, as you mentioned, safety through the years. And then the Los Angeles Chargers, another one that feels like we're saying the same thing every year. The offensive line, Phillip Rivers, not looking good as he ages right now, but he needs a little bit more help up front.
Chargers haven't had an above average pass blocking grade as a team in over a decade. And they have the second worst pass blocking grade of any offensive line in the NFL right now. It's bad, and it needs to be addressed.
And a lot of times the quarterback doesn't help the offensive line. Rivers isn't one of those guys that's making the O-line look bad. He has not been in a great spot. Then the Denver Broncos rounding out the AFC West. They got some quarterback question marks. That has to be the top need, trying to figure out who the next guy is.
Yeah, 100%. And you're going to say, they drafted Drew Lock. Let's see what he has. Well, one, it's the most valuable position on the football field, quarterback. You can't just say wait and see on a second-round draft pick. And if it's a second-round draft pick that hasn't even beaten out Brandon Allen for snaps so far as a rookie, it's not going to stop me from drafting a quarterback. They need one ASAP.
Yeah, Broncos absolutely still in the market. As we move to the AFC North, the first place Baltimore Ravens, we're going with edge defender. It seemed like this was a move that they made almost on purpose this past year. Hey, focus on coverage and just kind of piece together that pass rush.
Yeah, but they could still use a guy in there. Don't have a single edge defender now with a pass rushing grade over 70 on the season. Cornerback, they do have Jimmy Smith and Marcus Peters hitting for agency as well this offseason, so could address there. But I do think edge, if they add to that pass rush, will only make that coverage on the back end look better.
Yeah, no real replacement this year for Terrell Suggs, Zadarius Smith, and certainly a position for the Ravens to look at. And then similar, the Pittsburgh Steelers edge defender, despite T.J. Watt dominating on one side, the other side still has question marks.
Yeah, Bud Dupree in the midst of a career year, but he is a free agent. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, you have some young wide receivers. You have some young talent at quarterback. They have not played well, yes, this year, but you have guys that have promised. Don't really have anyone coming up the pipeline at edge defender. So re-signing Bud Dupree could be an option, or you could look to the draft once again to find the guy opposite T.J. Watt.
And then moving to the Cleveland Browns, one of the question marks coming in on this talent-laden roster was how are they going to protect Baker Mayfield, so we're going with offensive tackle for the Browns.
Definitely offensive tackle, fourth worst pass blocking grade of any tackle duo in the NFL, and the guy that they cut before the season, Greg Robinson, is the higher graded of that duo, which should tell you all you need to know about how big of a need that is.
Yeah, he hasn't had the best career in the PFF grading system, despite a little bit of improvement in recent years. And then rounding out the AFC North, the Cincinnati Bengals. Pretty clear they got to find the next quarterback.
Yeah, I don't think it's Ryan Finley. I mean, he was a fourth rounder for a reason and has not looked good through a couple of starts. I mean, he keeps trying to throw pick sixes there for them, and the Dalton era, it's over. I mean, you benched him, he's gone after this season, so it looks like they'll have their pick, though, of them, and we like Joe Burrow quite a bit.
So. They'll be sitting right up there, top 1, 2, 3 picks, and Burrow
yeah.
could be the local guy that they're looking at. And let's round out the AFC in the South, starting with the Houston Texans. They've had a really good defensive line through the years, but we're still saying defensive interior.
Yeah, I think defensive interior could go cornerback as well, but they have Gary Conley and Lonnie Johnson, the second rounder from last year, kind of coming up. Jonathan Joseph going to be a free agent there for them. But yeah, DJ Reader, their best interior player this year, 90.2 overall grade. He's set to hit free agency. And they don't really have anyone else making an impact there. Charles Omenihu has looked better on the outside than he has on the inside so far this year. I think that's his best position at the NFL level, so maybe one or two on the interior they could add this offseason.
And then moving to the Indianapolis Colts, it's the same thing. Defensive interior, they've done a nice job adding some edge rush presence in past years because they had one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL, but they could still use a little bit of push from the middle.
Yeah, the pass rush is getting better, but it's not because of the interior. 43 pressures from those defensive interior guys, 6th fewest of any NFL team. They could just use an upgrade there. If you get one more guy to go pair with that edge rush, will go a long way.
Moving to the Tennessee Titans, it's got to be the quarterback. You have Marcus Mariota set to be a free agent, and Ryan Tannehill is a backup that is playing well so far.
Yeah, and he's also set to be a free agent. So even if he does dominate down the stretch, looks like your quarterback of the future, you're going to have to compete with a lot of other NFL teams for his services, and franchise taking him would probably be crazy given his 7 years of starting at Miami, which were not great. So 76.3 passing grade from him. He's been solid, but I do think draft will be where you'd want to look if you're the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, no matter what happens, the Titans should be taking a quarterback, especially if they have an opportunity high. Rounding out the AFC in the South, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just amazing how quickly the league moves. We're calling cornerback their top need. It looked like they were so set at cornerback just 2 years ago.
Well, the good thing is you got 2 more extra first rounders now to address it over the next couple of years. But Trey Herndon, undrafted free agent, has looked like an undrafted free agent in Jalen Ramsey's steed there. 45.9 coverage grade for him. So A.J. Boye holding his own, but again, we're going to say cornerback. If you don't have 2 good cornerbacks, we're usually going to say cornerback as your biggest need.
And even if you do have 2, maybe get a third. Yeah, you can never have too many corners. Let's move to the NFC, starting in the East, the Dallas Cowboys. And we're saying safety. I mean, this is a position. They've done a nice job at linebacker, nice job at corner, but safety, it looks like they've been looking for consistent safety play for a few years.
Yeah, with how good those linebackers are, with how fast they are, if they just added a playmaker at safety, they just shut down the middle of the field for opposing offenses. Jeff Heath, not a playmaker at safety position. 80% completion percentage allowed in his coverage so far this season. Upgrade there would be necessary. The defense has been the problem this year. Upgrading that would go a long way to help that defense.
All right, moving on to the Philadelphia Eagles, who came into the season with a whole bunch of mediocre but young options at cornerback. It looked like they might have some depth, but some major question marks still there going forward.
And this is, again, why we say if you don't have 2 good corners probably your biggest need, because they had a bunch of young guys on the roster. None of them have been good before this year, and none of them are still good this year, And their best one, Ronald Darby, is set to hit free agency after this year. Only did sign that one-year deal. So corner definitely an issue. They really can't play man coverage against any sort of talented wide receiver. That's a problem in today's NFL.
The one difference with the Eagles defense, the year they won the Super Bowl, they've had a great pass rush for 5 straight years now, but the corners played great in 2017. New York Giants, this is a position that just felt like it got away from them a little bit in past years. JPP's gone, Olivier Vernon's gone. They still need a consistent edge defender. Yeah,
they haven't addressed it. I mean, Lorenzo Carter was a mid-round pick. They really haven't thrown a lot at that position after, like you mentioned, JPP and Olivier Vernon going. So edge defenders have only combined for 64 pressures on the season. It's third fewest of any group in all of the NFL.
They have guys like you said, Carter, O'Shea and Zimenez. I mean, guys that are just, okay, rotational guys, right? So have to attack that. And then the Washington Redskins, the offensive line, it used to be pretty decent just as recent as 2 years ago, but it's kind of fallen apart.
Yeah, no more Trent Williams, the whole saga or whatever. Don't expect him to be on the football field for Redskins anytime soon. And then Brandon Scherff also hitting free agency. It goes from one of the top, probably 5 offensive lines only a couple of years ago to now. If they don't address it and address it quick, it could be one of the worst offensive lines. It could be the worst offensive line in the NFL next year with all they're losing.
All right, moving out west, we're going with the San Francisco 49ers, and despite all the improvements on the defensive side of the ball, still could use an upgrade at safety.
Yeah, Tarvarius Moore, they thought he was, they would get a third rounder, I believe, on him, and he struggled this year to a 58.4 overall grade. Their highest graded safety this year, Jimmy Ward, is an impending free agent. So I do think, as good as the defense has been, upgrading that safety, adding some talent at safety could go a long way.
Let's move to the Seattle Seahawks. We're going edge defender here. And again, it's one of those things a few years ago, we were talking about them being 3 deep here. Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, they had plenty of, Frank Clark, they had plenty of depth there, and all those guys are gone. And despite Jadeveon Clowney being there this year, looking forward, still a major question mark.
Yeah, Jadeveon Clowney on the franchise tag. They probably sign him long term, but even then, Clowney has 32 pressures this season. The rest of the Seahawks edge defenders have 27.
Wow.
He has more than the rest of them combined. That's not a good thing to have going forward. They just need someone else. Now, they drafted L.J. Collier, but he was more of an interior guy at TCU. I'm not sure he projects great to the edge in the NFL. They have some young options, but needing even more talent there.
Moving to the Los Angeles Rams, and I think one of the biggest stories of the NFL season is just how poorly their offensive line has played. Andrew Whitworth is getting old, and all the guys that were replacing the veterans up front just haven't really panned out so far.
Yeah, Whitworth's still their best offensive lineman, but he's 37, going to be 38 by season's end. I don't think it's going to happen.
Nothing wrong with being 37.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that's your long-term option heading into 2020. Third worst pass blocking grade, though, in the NFL this season. Who saw that coming? We did not here at PFF. It fell apart quickly. Need to address it so that it doesn't continue to drop. And to, you can go even lower. You can be the Chargers. You can be the Dolphins at this point. You don't want to get to that point, though.
I like how you just said offensive line across the board. With the Arizona Cardinals, we'll be a little bit more specific. Offensive tackle. They're so close with this new air raid system. Kyler Murray's looking good, but offensive line, particularly tackle, a place they have to add talent.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten better from last year where they were the lowest graded unit in the NFL. It's looked a lot better, but both tackles impending free agents this upcoming offseason, so something to address there. Have allowed 50 total pressures as a group so far this season. That's not a great figure with how much Kyler Murray still helps your pass protection in terms of you can't rush him completely, you can't break contain. So Kyler Murray's helping those tackles a little bit, but if they improved, it would help Kyler Murray out a lot as well.
All right, moving to the NFC North with the Green Bay Packers. We're going with wide receiver. Despite Aaron Rodgers having some unbelievable games with a bunch of unknowns at receiver, it's tough to count on those guys week after week.
Yeah, when you face a team that has multiple good man coverage corners, you just don't really have a recourse when you don't have guys that can beat man coverage. They really only have Devontae Adams at this point. That's showed he can do that. He's averaging 2.67 yards per route. Marquez Valdez-Scantling's only averaging 1.51, and then Geronimo Allison, he's at 0.82. It's been bad after Devontae Adams there at that receiving core.
Yeah, get some different skill sets in there for Rodgers as he gets a little bit older here. Minnesota Vikings, we're going defensive interior. They're getting pretty good rush off the edge, especially Donnell Hunter, on pace for over 100 pressures, but the interior pass rush just hasn't been there.
30 pressures from their defensive tackles this year, the fewest of any defensive tackle group in the NFL. The guy that was the stalwart there, Linval Joseph, he's 31 now in the midst of his lowest graded season since 2014, not near the impact player he was a couple seasons ago. So nose tackle, 3 technique, they need both at this point, it seems.
All right, not rounding out. We got a couple more North teams to get to. The Chicago Bears, I think it's pretty obvious at this point, maybe a year late, we're saying quarterback is a place that they need to upgrade.
Yeah, and the worrisome thing is you don't have a first rounder to address it. So I don't know if it's going to happen via the draft, but any way you want to look at the numbers, Mitch Trubisky is a bottom 5 quarterback in the NFL this season. Was last season as well. He just is not good, and the even scarier thought is the arrow is not pointing up, it's pointing down at this point. He's getting worse, and so you need something else there at the quarterback position. I think everyone who has a pair of eyes can agree on that at this point.
All right, now the Detroit Lions, another position. It feels like it's been consistent. They add Trey Flowers, but edge defender still a place that they can add talent.
Yeah, exactly. Like Romeo Okwara and Devon Kennard have still played legitimate snaps this year and have a 62.0 and 60.4 pass rushing grade respectively on this season. They weren't good in 2018. We knew that coming into 2019. They added Trey Flowers to sort of mitigate that, but the pass rush still has suffered. So I do think adding someone across from Trey Flowers immediately would revamp that D.
All right, moving to the NFC South, to the New Orleans Saints. We're calling their biggest need cornerback. And this feels like one that's been a couple of years, too. We've seen flashes from Eli Apple. We've seen flashes from a few other guys opposite Marshawn Lattimore, but a big need going forward.
Yeah, kind of been a revolving door across from Marshawn Lattimore since he came into the league with no one really getting great results. And it goes back to what we talked about with the Bills. If you get 2 guys in there, all of a sudden you have an elite defense for a long, long time. 2 studs at the cornerback position. So Eli Apple, he's going to be a free agent. Hopefully, Drew Brees towards the end of his career, you don't want him to keep playing in shootouts like he did early in his career.
Yeah, we've seen that they can win games when the defense can at least be a little bit more competent than they were a few years ago. Carolina Panthers, we're going with the safety position. They've done a nice job of developing safeties through the years, but a place where they could certainly upgrade.
Yeah, Trey Boston came back, and he's playing really well for them, but he's the one-year deal king. He's on another one-year deal here, I think his 3rd straight now. They need someone else there because Eric Reed won't be able to carry that safety group all by himself. His allowing a passer rating over 130 when targeted this year has not been a great option for them, even though they signed him long-term. So adding another safety to that group would help.
Tampa Bay Bucks, a great example of a team. You just have to throw a ton of resources at key positions like cornerback until you find the guy, and they've put a ton of resources at this position recently.
They have, and they've, again, seen flashes, but no one's been consistently good at the cornerback position. Until you show me someone consistently good, they have MJ Stewart, have Carlton Davis, have Jamel Dean at the cornerback position, Sean Bunting, have all those guys, but they've allowed the most first downs of any cornerback unit in the NFL. So until you show me that someone's playing at a high level consistently there, keep throwing picks at it because, find someone who can draft corners better if you're not gonna find any that are good at this point.
Such a key position, especially when you're facing so many good quarterbacks in the South. And then the Atlanta Falcons, we're going edge defender here, another position that's really just been up and down for them, and they've attacked this position a lot as well in recent drafts, but still something, place they need to upgrade.
Exactly. They've attacked it, but again, haven't attacked it well. Adrian Claiborne, Vic Beasley, both hitting free agency. Claiborne's been their most consistent guy this year. So getting any influx of pass rushing talent will make that defense look a lot different than it has in the last couple seasons.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's all 32 teams. It flew by. NFL Draft, it's never too early to look forward to your top needs. If you want the full breakdown, it's over at PFF.com.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.